Welcome back to the Performance Circus with our lovely co-host, Beck. How are we, darling? How's your day going?
My day has been great. I'm super excited about our guest today because she's one I've personally really wanted to get on. So
you hustled to get me on it.
Yeah, hustled real hard off court.
She really has. She said from the very start when we started the Performance Circus, where everything we want to do is talk about, mental, physical, lifestyle, on field, off field, what we do in our profession, our chosen sports, hobbies, disciplines. And from the get-go, she always wanted to have you on, and I was absolutely all for it. So Beck, please take it away. Who do we have today? We
have the beautiful, wonderful, very talented Tayla Harris.
Ooh. Why don't I get an introduction like that?
Because I'm sick of you. I see you every day. Tayla, I'd love to start off with, obviously, you're iconic in AFLW, and I feel like you're one of the faces if people didn't really know much about, women's sport, but in general, football. When did you start playing? How old were you? It is a different journey. We have a mutual friend, Mon Conti, and so interested to just know a bit more how you started to, say, first season of AFLW.
Yeah, I started playing footy in Brisbane, which was a little bit not the normal because Queensland is more of a rugby state. So AFL footy, no one else at school was playing, but I was just 5 and I just joined in and I loved this sport. I did every other sport, but I joined in footy and then just kept at it, always against the grain, particularly at school, but then amongst my friendship group and stuff. It was me and I think one other boy that would play AFL footy and everyone else was either soccer or rugby or whatever. So I think that's kind of where it started, my rebelling, going against the grain of what everyone else was doing. And I refused to apologise. I just liked playing this sport that was pretty crazy and let me kick people, jump on people, or actually no, I'm not supposed to kick people, kick the ball, jump on people and tackle. It was just, this sport that seemed too good to be true. So loved it, kept playing. And then AFLW became a thing. It was a conversation when I was only like 16. They were talking about it, but it was in the future. So it was like maybe going to come to fruition, but all of a sudden the CEO of the AFL at the time, Gil McLachlan, said, let's do it in 2017. So next minute in 2 years, I think, we're on. We're going to play on the TV and we're playing for AFL clubs. And it all just really happened quickly. So I've gone from playing local footy as like a 18-year-old or 17, 18-year-old and not really caring about any sort of professional standards. There weren't any. Our local footy club, the glass in the clubhouse was always broken and there was a toilet but it didn't really work. And like that was the footy club, but I loved it. And that created a sense of community because we're all there just to kick the ball around and enjoy each other's company. We're not getting paid. In fact, we're paying to play. So this huge contrast. And then all of a sudden signing this contract with an AFL club, and this particular AFL club at the Brisbane Lions was in the last decade the last 20 years had won 3 premierships, like a substantial success. And I'm there, just this kid from Brisbane who half tried, but also like just did it for fun and enjoyed it. And then all of a sudden, on TV and a lot of scrutiny. And if you play average, you're not good and you're never going to amount to anything. If you play well for one game, you're the best thing that's ever happened in AFLW. Like it was absurd. I initially never really took on board either of those opinions. But then when I moved to Victoria, it was very much a decision. I'm moving from Queensland to Victoria just to see what it's about. I'm going to try living away from home. It's too easy. Mum does my washing, cooks my meals and stuff. I want to put myself out of my comfort zone in another state. I could always fly back, obviously, or so I thought until COVID. And so that kind of was the transition. That's when it became quite real because when I moved from Brisbane, I'd played literally 7 games in the first season, very average games. And we made it all the way to the grand final and we lost the grand final or whatever, but it was a successful season and I tried my best and whatever. But it was just 1-year contracts, first year of the whole thing. Didn't feel like it was too full on yet, but it was because when I moved, I got a lot of comments and a lot of people letting me know I'm a traitor and all that sort of stuff. My hashtag was the blonde Brisbane bimbo. So who's heading down to Victoria for the money. And I was kind of like, where is the money? Because there was no money, obviously.
I'm not seeing it.
I was like, I don't know who's getting money because it's not me. And it was like we were playing, I think think it would have been 8 games the following season. So it seemed quite bizarre that people would be so critical and so cranky about me leaving. And I just, that kind of made things real. And also I moved to a big club, Carlton, but I moved there based on really like generic reasons. Like Dad, wanted to play for Carlton when he was younger. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'll play there then for you kind of thing, wore his number. So all these other people thought there was this whole massive big reasoning. But
thought you were getting $1 million a year.
Yeah,
like, no, I'm actually paying to play again.
Exactly, yeah. Well, pretty much. Moving into state, I pretty much did end up paying to play after paying rent, and big difference between rent in Victoria and rent in Queensland.
Yeah.
Well, no rent in Queensland because I'd be living with Mum and Dad. So, this crazy whirlwind started very soon and very quickly. But I guess at that point, I just had to go with it and just had to learn. Each time I would feel inundated with either comments or criticism, I just had to work out how to navigate that to feel okay. Because at the end of the day, I'm just playing a sport. We're all just playing a sport. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you guys would
it's just a game.
Get it too. But it seems so crazy. Sometimes I stand on the field and I'm like, what's going on now? This is crazy. There's thousands of people there watching us and we're just kicking a ball around. Through the sticks, back to the middle. Through the sticks. It's bizarre, but we love it, and it is an amazing thing that I'm glad to be a part of.
And you said, obviously, the big change coming here, of course, Victoria is like such a football AFL state. How did you deal with the pressure of, like you said, you were just playing this game because it was fun, I got to be with my friends, sense of community. I guess, how did you deal with the negativity and probably the sum of it that you were not expecting, and then also the pressure of, hey, we're now the first season of AFLW, so blessed to be like one of the girls who has started it, because I know I feel the same way about Flyers, Creakywood with Phoenix. You were there from the start. Like, I feel like that is also a privilege and something exciting. You can pave the way and also leave a legacy like on this. So what was the pressures like? And I guess how was your mindset dealing with this fresh start, but also that was probably just blown up in your face at the same time?
It was. And I think the thing that always would ground me was these young girls that literally a year earlier couldn't stand in the crowd and look at who they want to be out there on the field wearing AFL club colours. And so that would, after games, we still do, which I love that we still do this. After the game, we've got 10 minutes or so to go around and meet some of the fans and interact. And you guys do that too. The men's... I saw the chairs when I was at the women's basketball game the other day. The chairs set up ready for fans to come. Mm-hmm. I think that's great, and I hope that doesn't change. I understand there's a lot of parameters that need to... I think at times there should be a little bit more restriction from the fans, like when they're in the car park and pretty much in your car.
Yeah.
But it's all... You kind of give what you give and you get a bit. So I love that interaction with young people, particularly straight after the game. They can see the real raw emotion, whether we win or lose, and these kids can consume that and realise that this is what it takes to get to this level. And I hope that those little interactions mean that they continue to play and continue to be healthy and make decisions that put them on a path to do sport and to love sport and feel happy, rather than, obviously there's a lot of other alternatives out there. So I think that would always bring me back when things got really hard, or criticism, or commentators saying certain things, or journalists writing things that aren't true, etc. It just was a really quick fix to do either a community interaction with the footy club, which they obviously facilitate. We go to schools and local footy clubs, or just after games, or at training. We train at Gosh's in Melbourne, and it's a public field. Anyone can come and watch us train and hang out with us, really. Pretty much anyone could actually come and train with us. But
I was going to say, like, some guy walks past and like, hey, I need to work on my left foot too. I might jump in kick to kick. That'd be pretty cool.
Dogs come and join us, which
Creaky's
is my favourite
like
part.
off-season, weird. Let's go.
What time do we kick off today? You watch me out there, I have a ponytail on. I'm part of the team now.
Just a clip-on ponytail.
Easy, yeah, I can do that.
You and I can just interchange.
I can figure this out.
Both got tattoos.
We look exactly the same.
Who's this other Brisbane blonde bimbo?
Who's the big blonde bimbo? She's a big dog. Like, I'm playing full forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're doing pretty well in the forward department, but we can always use...
Hey, Dustin Fletcher was my absolute hero, and luckily enough, we had Dyson Heppel on the podcast, a good friend of mine, and I loved Essendon growing up. That was my team. Gary Moorcroft, little Specky in the goal scorer we spoke about, and Dustin Fletcher in the fullback, just punching balls all the way to the centre field. So I'm pretty versatile. I can play in the back line if you need.
Isn't it interesting when you remember someone for one moment? I remember, obviously also being the oldest player to play, but him launching torpedoes from fullback. I would never, but he's done a million other things, but that I probably never watched him play in real time. But I remember that part of him and his career, which is quite cool.
This was back in the day when they used to, if they didn't punch it 50 yards or 50 metres from a spoil, then he would mark it and then he would just torpedo that thing 70 metres down the middle of the field. And it was just a contest. It was pretty even. There was no flooding. There was no zones. There was no trying to control sections of the field. It was just, it is pretty much a one-on-one or a two-on-two. I'm just going to bomb it straight down the middle, and Essendon were pretty good back in the day.
Bring it back. Let's bring that into women's footy.
And like you just said, hey, I've remembered a hero or someone did a great play, and all it was that one moment.
Yeah.
How do you feel? You spoke about that interaction that you get with the young fans, whether they're young girls or even young boys. Like, I love that now young boys are getting around, like seeing the amount of young boys at the Matildas.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so fucking great. Like, I love that they are now understanding women's sport is legit and like we should get around it as well. But for those young fans, I think you go into a sport and probably you as well, you are a big figure, not expecting to be such a role model. How does it make you feel knowing, hey, I have a platform, how you want to use it, one, but two, knowing that there are all these little girls out there being like, I want to be a Tayla Harris one day, or like you said, you're so authentic to yourself. You're like, I want to grow up and do what Tayla does, but, I want to be the Bet Cole one day.
Yeah.
Like, how does that make you feel?
I take it really seriously, and I think you can choose to not. I mean, it's fine to have a different kind of angle that you go from as an athlete, but for me, this is a really important angle that I want to work on and try my best to be the best role model that I can. Not just on the field. Obviously, I'm going to try and play good and whatever. But to be fair, that's actually second for me in this space. So if I can have an interaction with a young fan, not even young, actually anyone that takes the time to actually meet me and want to let me know that they support me, then I'm going to give everything in that moment. And I always try and ask for their name and then repeat their name in the following sentence, because I will never forget when I was younger, Michael Voss did that for me. And now, full circle moment, him and I cross paths randomly every now and then, and he wants to chat to me and he knows my name, and I'm just like, when I was 5, you were it. You were the be all and end all. And now here I am a long time later and still remembering that moment and still feeling like really special that he makes the effort to actually speak with me. And I mean, obviously we're both just humans, and obviously he would be on the same page, and I'm aware of that too now. But as a child, you're not human, you're a superhero. So yeah, I take it very seriously because of my own experience, and I know the impact that it can have, but also just because why not? It's easy just to be a nice person, particularly to young people, and to give people time. You're already there. You're already kind of walking through, and what's the difference between an extra couple of minutes to make someone's day? And yeah, I think I have a responsibility, whether I asked for it or not, irrelevant. Today I do, so I'm going to just go with that and keep trying my best to be my best in that space. I will stuff up at some point, and I have before, no doubt, in people's opinions and whatever, but all I can do is just keep trying to positively impact people along the way. And then when I retire, I'll be happy.
I think just to jump in there, like you talk about Michael Voss was your hero growing up. Mine was Matthew Lloyd. Matthew Lloyd actually came to our game.
Sounds like you should have played AFLW.
Well, we talked about actually, I did a preseason with Essendon and almost signed with Essendon. So I love
there's still a spot. Just
grew up playing footy,
there.
but yeah, basketball's definitely winning right now.
I hope you actually did almost sign, because I hate those people who go onto like Love Island or The Bachelor and they're like played for the Socceroos, and I'm like, I looked you up.
You did.
You didn't even go to training camp, bro.
Yeah.
Went to the Olympics as a spectator.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Oh, that's actually a really good one. But look, Dyson and I was there, and Dyson was working out, and I'm in the training facility. They got this like huge kind of aerospace dome out at Essendon in the field, and I remember doing like the time trials, the workouts, and everything. And I remember just walking in thinking like, this is where Matthew Lloyd used to kick goals. Like this is like Windy Hill. This is for me like the Mecca. So I actually saw Matthew Lloyd last weekend at our game, and our bench was here. I was injured, I wasn't playing, and he was sitting 2 meters away from me. And I looked across, and Alan Williams, source on our team, looked at me and goes, "Are you good?" And I was staring at Matthew Lloyd, and he goes, "What?" And I was like, "That's Matthew Lloyd. You don't know who that is, dude?" And he's like, "No." I was like, "He's like the greatest goal kicker of all time. Like, he's my absolute hero." And he goes, "Do you want me to introduce you to him?" I was like, no, I'll go and do it. And I didn't fucking do it. I completely forgot, because we left, the game finished, we lost, and I was sitting there, and then by the time I turned around, Lloydie and his son were gone. So Lloydie, if you're here, mate, we've got to get a coffee one day.
Get him on the podcast. Imagine that.
But I think
you won't be doing any talking.
I would not. I just like stared in the whole time awkwardly. But
and the police will come.
Everyone will get shut down. It'll be awkward. But you speak about Vossi. Did you have any other heroes growing up? Like, I know from Brisbane especially, you had Blackie, you had, Ackermanis. Did you do handstands growing up? Was that one of the things you practiced in the backyard because Jason used to do it? Or was there other people you looked up to at a young age that said, that's who I want to model my career potentially afterwards? Even though at a young girl, you're probably thinking, I'm not going to be an AFL because there's no such thing.
Well, I wasn't actually thinking that. I was thinking I'm going to play in the men's league. Like and this is serious. Like, I'm a 10-year-old or something. And it made sense, right? Like, if I'm better than this boy who could go and play in the AFL, then obviously I should also, if I am better. I didn't even ever consider gender. And then obviously that became a reality as like mid-teens, but then it also quickly shifted because now AFLW is the thing. So I only had a small time where I couldn't actually dream to play AFL footy, but then I do feel for the generation before me who didn't ever get that opportunity and was disappointed from the moment of disappointment. No opportunity to fulfill that. So yeah, I actually, the person that comes to mind, Katie Brennan, who now is the captain of Richmond, Queensland born and bred, and she was the Queensland captain of the under-18s team, and I was only 12 when I played for the first time in the Queensland under-18s, and I was roommates with Katie, and she was the 18-year-old captain, the coolest thing ever. And like, she was a great football player back then, still is now, and still captain. So she's obviously got those leadership qualities from the start. But for her to kind of take me under her wing in that, like, my mum had to come on the camp with me because I'm 12, like, I'm in primary school and I'm going on this under-18s like national team kind of thing. So obviously it was a cool experience, but it probably shows the level of, to be honest, the level of footy back then. Now I wouldn't have thought a 12-year-old's going to be playing in the under-18s. And if they are, they're a superstar. So good on them. But yeah, I was definitely not that. But I was, just finding myself in these positions with influential people, and good and bad. Those 18-year-olds that probably influenced in a negative way, or perhaps didn't give me any time of day because I was so young, but not Katie. She was so kind to me and, really wanted to help me along the way. And we're still friends now. And I think that's a really cool thing. So her, in terms of the women's space, and as a young person looking up to someone, we didn't have AFLW yet. So it was, looking up to the Queensland captain, which I'm sure you guys understand, like that national or state team. The captains or the older players are heroes when you're younger.
100%. Couldn't agree more. And I think, the space of just the friendships you build. Like you said, you were 6 years younger. Yeah. But I'm sure, you see Katie, you go have like the bonds that you make with a team is something that is undescribable. Like, I legit, from Vic Metro under 16 top age team, we still have a Facebook group and we still all like catch up all the time. And I'm like, that doesn't happen often in the real world.
No, it doesn't. Not in that age group, and you spend a week together maybe for a national camp and you're still great friends with these people so long later. And I think that's such a unique thing that sport has and brings people together, and obviously like-minded people and everything. But I support all of those players that I played with when I'm younger. If we're Facebook friends and they're doing something cool, I haven't spoken to them in 10 years, but I'm going to like their post and be happy for them to be doing great things. Or maybe they're now mums, or maybe they've got a new job and not doing sport anymore. But it's really cool to stay connected. Same with school friends and everything, but I think sports friends are a little bit different.
I agree.
Yeah, I just thinking about that then, like you talk about Vic Country, and I remember Matthew Dellavedova. We would go to these local, intensive training camps, weekend camps. They'd happen 5-6 times a year, and I got invited to a few. I remember seeing Delly literally like a book this thick, just doing his homework, his study, his prep for uni, And here I am, this like gangly, pimply, awkward, left-handed country kid. Like, holy...
I'm glad you said country.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what you were going to say.
Oh, yeah. So I was this like prepubescent, like young, like awkward... I look like a worm off of Men in Black. And I'm trying to run around, play basketball. And I'm seeing like Delhi, who's just this big, boulder-shouldered, strong... He's shooting the absolute skin off the ball. His dad's there rebounding for him. He's got a big textbook and he's learning. And I was thinking that was my person that I looked up to, because I was like, well, he's going to college. He's going to go and play in a world stage. He's going to go and play in the NBA. Like, that's what he's going to do. He's playing for Australia. He's a skipper. He's got a great foundation in front of him. So that's where it started for me. And I know that resonates so much today. And I watched Delhi play him. I don't catch up with him for coffees. I've had some Australian tours with him, but he's not someone I just go out of my way and we'd catch up on the weekend for a beer or a coffee or something. But he's someone that from afar I've always admired how he's gone about his work. And I think having someone that maybe they don't even know is so important for people to say, well, this is my passion. This is my chosen discipline in life, whatever it might be. Or this is a sad day, thing I like to do and I don't really tell anyone. Find someone in that field and then go, that's what I want to do. I want to paint like this person. Or that's
the thing. They don't even know. You guys would also, we all would have people, young people, particularly in our teams, that we don't know that are so, that admire us and the way we do things, good and bad. So I think it's, again, important to remember we've drafted, I think, like 6 or 8 new players onto our team. And I'm aware that this is a critical point. If I'm going and doing things that are against our club values and against our team values, that is obviously all they know. So what's to say that it's not going to, like, how could they be blamed for then following along the player that already plays there? Like, when I first came to Melbourne, I'm doing exactly what Kate Hoare, who's the captain now, or Daisy, is doing, because that's what I'm walking into. I'm copying. That's human nature, to try and mimic and copy the people that you think are great. So, I always remember that. And then sometimes we're human and we obviously make errors along the way, but to then be able to correct that says a lot too. So like you said, you don't know who is kind of looking up to you, and that's when being an athlete can have more pressure than you probably either wanted or realised. But if you're not realising it now as like more seasoned athletes, I'm not going to say older.
We are old. We know it. We talk about our arthritis knees and our sore bits. So we very much we appreciate you saying we're not old. We are just seasoned.
Well, I'm part of this too. I'm in the.
You're 27. You're not.
Well, I'm 26. 27 in April.
Oh,
but
close.
it's very different to being fresh and 18. So there's probably.
She's fresh off a quarter life crisis. I had one of them, bought a red convertible, don't know why I did it. So at least you're over that hump. But
what kind of convertible did you buy?
VW EOS, and it had done 220.
Where is it now?
Sold. So my dad must have been 50 going through half-life crisis, whatever they're called. And he's a smart man. And this car had done 225,000 Ks. And
so
even
smart.
he was like, yeah, Coley, let's do it. And I come home and Rosalind's like,
Gary, you are off.
Rebecca, what have you done? Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But I want to go backward.
I want it to come back. I want to see you rolling around in that.
Please, can we have a photo?
Of course it would be on the socials. I'll find one and send it to you.
Cut that into this clip.
Oh, gee.
But I want to go back to what you just said about being a human, having those pressures and those eyes on you. Something that was really bloody huge. It was that, obviously, that iconic kick that someone grabbed, the best shot I've ever seen. I remember witnessing that and being like, that is a female athlete / I've just torn my hamstring and my groin at the same time because, geez, if I tried that now, I'd pass away. So how did you are a human. I don't think that's athletes understand that, but from the outside, I think people either think they're your best friend, they're in your circle, they can give you hard truths. And again, just form opinions, and they don't really know you. They know what you do on the field. But if you don't mind, I would love to dive in a bit to deal with, like, you got so much hate and sexualized with one picture that it absolutely blew my mind as just a human being. How did you deal with that?
It was an interesting time. Michael Wilson took the photo, who's the best AFL footy photographer going around. So it was one of those moments of he was in the right spot at the right time. The photo was cool.
Sick. It's an awesome photo.
Yeah, and that's all it was. I was just kicking the footy, and I saw it, and I was like, oh yeah, nice photo. But I actually chose. I think generally and you understand, like, we post photos from our games to then either say we won or this is when our next game is, because we're promoting our own games. Obviously, being such early in the league, like we need to do that as athletes. So that's what I kind of do, grab photos, and the media team send through some photos and I put them up there and I'll say how the game went. I chose not to put that photo for no reason. I just prefer to post the photos with my other teammates in them. So I've kind of just gone, cool, moved on. Then 7AFL posted that. I can't remember what they captioned it or whatever, but they put it up. And then, it was just this onslaught of comments that were so foul that I can't even really regurgitate them because it was like pretty gross. But I didn't actually see, I kind of saw the preview. You know how you can see on Facebook the preview? So I saw one and I'm like, what's a weird thing to say? Clicked on it and there was just more people piling on. And I just thought it was bizarre because I'm literally playing football, kicking the footy in my team uniform. It's not as if I had done anything to kind of put myself in a position to then be sexualized. Like I wasn't wearing anything particularly outrageous. And I mean, obviously we post bikini photos at the beach and like things like that. And they don't really get that sort of scrutiny. So that, it seems so bizarre and out of line. So I just put my foot down and I through no direction, I just saw that. I didn't know if anyone else had seen these comments, but I just reshared it and I wrote sexist and derogatory. No, sorry, I wrote my hamstring is okay, but sexist and derogatory comments aren't. And that was it. Like I just put it out there.
I love that.
As a matter of fact, didn't think anything would come of it and didn't even think anyone would connect the dots. But obviously they did. And then it started this whole discussion. I kind of threw a bomb and then stood back and watched everyone kind of debate, which I thought was really important. I didn't want to be the person to reply to every comment. I didn't have time. I couldn't. We were going to play a final that weekend. So I just kind of put it out there, woke up the next day, all these missed calls, all these requests to go on media and stuff, and it had caused a bit of a scene, you could say. But I wasn't about to go and do every media interview and try and justify everything to everyone and give my opinion on every platform. I don't have the time, and I thought that would dilute the message that I was trying to get across, which was, again, just that it's not okay to do that to people, let alone athletes, let alone female, anyone. And then I just did this one radio interview and one press conference, and I just answered a few questions, and it was, pretty to the point. A lot of full-on questions were asked about sexual harassment, about, what this means for the broader community. All these things were pretty hard topics to navigate through, but I felt like I was in a really good space to be able to do that. And I was answering questions just as what I thought and felt was the right thing to say. And that resonated, I think, because I'm not doing anything scripted. I'm not saying what someone else told me to say. And you can tell, when someone's been prepared or like is reading off a script or whatever. I wasn't doing that. And I think that's, again, why it really gained legs. And then we played footy that weekend and won. And it was this whole thing of support and there was a lot of love for me and then for female athletes and AFLW at the time, which was great. There was also obviously the other side, which was full on, but I felt like the positive outweighed the negative, so I felt completely fine. My parents, I feel, went through a lot more than anyone would even consider, and you kind of know, I'm sure you guys are the same with parents that really take on everything, like every good comment and bad comment. And mum and dad obviously have social media and they're reading all this as well. So they're as affected as I am, and I'm letting them know I am okay. I'm interstate as well. So that was really hard to work through too, which was a part of it that isn't an immediate thought. But that kind of then triggered a lot of other stuff. Like then that we won that game. I can't remember. I think we went to be honest, I can't even remember what happened in the rest of that season because this was such a substantial moment and it felt bigger than any game that we could win or lose. Like it felt like this moment, not me doing anything. It was the whole community and the whole women's sports space doing something more and making a difference and a line in the sand kind of moment. That's funny. I actually can't remember the result with the rest of that season. I think we went to the grand final and lost, but I recall. The following year, COVID happened. So it was this real wave and like things are going pretty well and a lot of opportunities commercially and all that sort of stuff. And I'm trying to make sure that I'm sticking to my original values that I had and trying not to change and keeping time for my friends and also making the most of it. And there was so many things to do. But then, COVID came and put a stop to all that a few years or a year later. And then that was much harder than anything that happened before because, as I said earlier in the podcast, I can always go back to Queensland and see my family. Mm-hmm. And obviously I had been pretty flat out and not been able to see mum and dad for a while. And this was really challenging for them too, as I said. So, border closed and we're still playing footy, but I didn't feel right about playing footy through that time. I'm sure you guys were similar. It was like, why am I still playing and getting paid to play sport when nurses and people who are actually saving lives aren't able to go to work, people are losing their jobs, people can't go to funerals. So I was really had a bit of a complex. Then I understood that sport was creating a bit of hope for a few people to be able to watch it. So then I was like, okay, I am doing the right thing, but it was really challenging. Played a pretty average season, performed pretty badly, I guess, like average, not good, not pure shit. But then I got delisted from Carlton. So that in terms of the difference of what was harder, definitely that COVID period of time and watching people go from all this love, all this care to then immediately, or almost a year later exactly, now I'm like the worst thing that's happened to the football club that I gave everything to, that I did everything for, and the reason that I lived away from my family for, and then all of a sudden I'm getting like kicked out of the club or delisted. But then that's also hijacked by the media to be an inaccurate story about another reason. And so there's all this, one year it's this, next year it's this, and then now at Melbourne and we win the premiership, everyone's happy again. Like I learned that you can't take on board everything and you can't, good and bad. Like you're going to get a lot of love and that's good and you should absorb a bit of it, but not all of it, because inevitably there's going to be the other side. And if you're human, you're going to take all of it in probably equally. But I've learnt now to take a bit of that and to learn from the negative comments. Sometimes there's merit in them, and there is sometimes a reason why people are off board what you're doing on the field. Maybe it is true. I was pretty shit at kicking goals this year. I agree, but I don't know if the death threats are worth it. You know, like it's kind of like that. And when I say death threats, that's obviously like a headline kind of word, but people. It
does happen. Like it really does. I've had plenty of death threats. And I've had people write letters
about it.
Letters and post them to my house, and you think, how did you get my address?
Yeah,
like, how do you know where I live? Like, people don't really truly understand what it's like to have a profession. So you could be an architect, you could be a builder, and then you go to work one day, and then there's 5,000 people on your building site telling you you're banging the nail in wrong, that's the wrong piece of timber, that's the wrong thing, this is right, oh, great job. And then you're like, hang on a second, like, who the fuck are you? Like, it's a job for us. This is a job, but this is also a game, and we have to be able to separate the two sometimes, because the game doesn't always feel like a game. Sometimes it feels like a bit of a circus. And that's why I think we wanted to start this, because, it's about, portraying to listeners that we are normal people. We are no different. We don't get a silver spoon. We have no entitlement. We're not on a high stool or anything. We're just on the medium ground. And if we all continue to just travel on that medium path, then we don't get too high, we don't get too low, because with the good comes the bad. With the bad comes the good. And then there's some times where you just have a big, string of good. Like this photo happens, the world publicize it. You have no intention to set off a ticking time bomb, which you wouldn't have known in hindsight. But you sit there and you go, I'm doing the right thing that I feel is true to my values. Then people jump on that, and then you win, you lose, and then it's because of that. You're only successful because you got an inappropriate photo taken of you. There'll be people at home that say that. Being our true authentic selves is the only thing that we can ever hang a hat on and be proud of and sleep at night comfortably. Yeah. Because without that, we're just a fake facade. We're a clown in a circus that actually doesn't really belong there. You're like, well, that's not who I want to be. So I think being able to turn a positive situation, in my opinion, that was a fucking phenomenal photo. Like when I used to play footy, I used to love that photo. You'd be halftime, there'd be guys eating sausage rolls and drinking beers in Horsham, like, and then they're kicking goals, and there's like, people throw up a photo and no one blinks twice. But now it's a woman well, they're going to make a bit of an inappropriate comment, and then one person's made it, and now it's okay for everyone to make it, which it's not. So I think you've done such an amazing job being able to handle that situation, and it's not easy. And I'm sure for you, there's not just trauma for you from that, but you're right, your mum and dad, brothers and sisters, uncles and aunties, cousins, they see you go through those moments. And I've been through those moments where my mum and dad were more harshly affected by situations than I was. And I'm holding it together, and I see mum and dad in tears, and you're like, well, that pisses me off.
Well, also teammates, other AFLW, other female athletes, because it's like, yeah, I was okay to go through that at that time, and I was able to manage it. I was in the right headspace.
And thank God you were.
Exactly. But someone else wasn't. And then this scenario creates a huge ripple effect that is potentially...
Did you feel like that affected certain players on the team? Like it really hindered their performance?
I don't know about performance. I think it was kind of hard to know how to support me in that instance. But I think I was pretty honest and clear that I am okay when I was okay. And I felt like I had a really good support network that I had built previously to that incident. So I felt like I could draw on them through either the team I was in or externally or family. So I think they were okay, but you'd have to ask some of them.
Did you feel like you were able to be honest about when you weren't okay? Because it's very easy for me to say, hey, Beck, how are you? And she goes, yeah, good. How are you? And I say, yeah, good. Oh, like life's great. But really life's a piece of shit and I'm getting slapped in the face. So were there moments where you were honest with some of your teammates and those circles saying, you know what, I'm actually not okay. I'm really struggling today. And how did you have those conversations?
I think for me, footy, it was important for me to, with all this going on outside of footy, it was really important. And the way that I was okay was to be at footy for footy and to then not bring that into footy, if that makes sense. Yep. And I know there are scenarios where it is important to be able to, I guess, yes, be honest with your teammates, you're not okay today. But in this particular instance, to be okay was to then not necessarily talk about it or bring it in there. And I had a lot of strategies and a lot of support externally that I would then take into that football training to make sure I get the most out of footy training, because I did feel a bit of pressure to then perform that following weekend because of all this happening, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, I need to train well. In order to do that, I need to be there at training and focus. So that was kind of the process I went through to work out that I wanted to essentially leave it at the door, so to speak, and then know that as soon as I walk away from training after this 2 hours, it's still there. It's still the exact same and I still have to deal with it. But for these 2 hours, I'm here with my friends, not on my phone, having a good time, kicking the ball around.
And we've talked about this a lot, is you pull up the training and you've had a horrible day, something's in the background, no one knows about it. You go, all right. And Dyson spoke about putting on Eminem and he's just like, I'm in the car listening to Eminem doing this. And he's like, yeah, fuck everybody, let's go. He gets out of the car and he's hyped up and then he deals with what is in front of him, because his job is to be a high-performing professional athlete, a leader, and a friend. And if you make other people better around you, then that's great. But then you've still got to finish that, declutter your mind, and then get back in the car and drive home. And that's where, okay, now how do I manage this situation? So I think it's very commendable. I think you've done an amazing job, and I think a lot of people will take a lot from that. So
it's also easier said than done, obviously.
So
I understand that.
Done.
But this is years of working through it and practicing. And I think the piece of advice that someone, whether it's advice or just a matter of fact, someone gave me a while ago was, it's going to be in the car, for example. It's going to be there in the car and then you're going to go train and it's going to be there the exact same in the car when you get back. So it's like bringing it into training actually doesn't achieve anything or change it in any way. In fact, makes it worse. And now you're a bit upset because you haven't trained the way that you intended to or want to for your team and your teammates. So, I think the understanding that it's not going to fix it, but it's also not going to make it worse to then leave it in that kind of space outside of your workplace. Because, we are athletes and this is our priority and it is our job and, we're human and everything, but to be completely harsh, this is what you have to be doing now. And there's sympathy and there's empathy and everything, but there's also a job to be done.
And I couldn't agree more with that. And as well, I find when I go to training, it's like an escape. Like if shit's going wrong off court, for me, I'm like, this is why I started doing this sport, is because I love it. And so for me, I'm like, I get to escape that. Yeah. Like you said, it'll be there with you in the car afterwards. So let's go enjoy this moment. But thank you for opening up about that. And while we're on the, track of your authentic self and who you really are, there's a whole nother side to you, which is your pro boxing world. And as Creaky said it before, what's it like getting punched in the face? No, like, okay, let's talk about that. How did you get into boxing? Was that family? Was it just something you did growing up? What was the intro into Tayla Harris, now the pro boxer?
And does that also help you inflict pain on the football field? Just bang, just drop an elbow in.
It's kind of the opposite. I'm the last person to want to hit someone because I know I can. I know I can do damage, so I don't need to. I'm pretty
dangerous. Dangerous.
Yeah.
Beck's like, fuck, how do I become a boxer? I want to be dangerous.
I think that, to be fair,
I don't know what that was. What's it called?
You know that one? I can't do it. I've tried it.
Please
this is the
keep.
speedball.
Yes.
God, dude, you just got to. You give her a
But I
leash.
prefer the
You got to let her just keep. Show me a heavy bag. What do you do on the heavy bag?
Yes. That's it. That's exactly it.
We could just play charades for an hour. This would be great.
I forgot the question. How did I start?
Intro into boxing.
When I was only like 12, Dad thought it would be good cross training for me to do boxing for footy. And he loved boxing and kickboxing and any sort of kind of fighting. He loved it and thought that it was a good thing to do for discipline, understanding what you're capable of, for balance, and for self-defense ultimately as a young woman, and Dad wanting to make sure I'm safe when I go out in the big world. And it's not about being, if any incident happened, not about staying there and fighting them. It's about understanding that you can, if you need to, do something to then allow yourself space to then get out of there. The balance thing is important, and understanding how to throw a punch or how to put yourself in a position where you're not going to get knocked off balance is, potentially saving your life down the track. So that was, I think, kind of the concept of getting involved, but mostly, for cross-training. And then I loved it. I went to the local, I think it was like a PCYC, like a community kind of boxing class that was put on, and I went in there through the basketball court down like into the storeroom, and there's this one bag hanging there and there's this coach, and I don't know if I'm lying, but I feel like I remember him having an eye patch. I don't know if
I
I
was
feel
actually
like
on a pirate
PCYC, that would like make sense.
I just, for some reason, I just keep thinking that. I have to ask Dad. But
it's a dangerous man if you can box one eye.
Yeah, but he would do the demonstrations, and I would be like the person he would get up to demonstrate, and he wouldn't just softly kind of go, okay, now you're going to do this. He would just whack me, and then I would kind of be like, oh yeah, I love it. And then I just got this bug for that sport as well, same as footy. And then I just kept trying for fitness. I noticed big differences on my footy conditioning and everything. And then I had my coach Faris, who's still one of my coaches up in Brisbane, who has been incredible since the day I started boxing, and he thought that I could do it. He thought I could be a boxer and could fight. So I said, all right, well, if you think I can, let's do it. Just sign up for this fight. No amateur boxing or anything, just straight into the I don't even know what it was. It was, again, at the PCYC. I may as well move into the PCYC. But it was, just in this hall, and I kind of went out there in my footy shorts pretty much and a bra, and I'm kind of, let's box. And then it went well for me. It didn't go so well for the other lady, but I won by knockout or a TKO or whatever. And I was like, oh God, I can do this. So then, I just kept going and kept taking whatever fights my coaches told me to do. And I just did what they told me to do. And then it went well. I don't love hurting people. I actually hate hurting people. I had to have a sit-down conversation with Faris, my coach, and he was like, if you're not going to knock people out, I don't think this is the sport for you. And he was like, because I would get to the point where I could knock them out and I would step back because they looked scared or sad or something. And I'm like, but I don't want to, I could just keep going. And he's like, but then I have to sit there and worry that you're going to get knocked out. And like, how does that make me feel? And I'm like, right, well, if that upsets you, then I'll actually go and do it.
Okay,
and then I got like 3 knockouts, like consecutive next fights. And I'd like, knock him out and I'd go to my coach, is that good? No thumbs up because I'm stuck here. Is that good? And so making my coach proud, making Dad proud, making my family proud is why I do sport. And obviously it's fun and whatever, but it is hard work for sure, and it's dangerous. So that's the overarching reason I do it.
There's definitely we've had a great conversation with Michael Zarafa, and we you've done some stuff with Team Ellis Boxing and you've put on some displays there. And I don't know if Beck's seen some of the knockouts, but you are a very impressive boxer. It's a very hard sport, and it's not, basketball is a game, right? Boxing is not a game.
Yeah.
We talked about with Mike, and I love boxing. I've got a couple of friends that are professional boxers. I've always been around it. I've always loved training it and sparring, and I'm not a very good boxer, but I'm long and I can keep people at reach and at distance, so it helps me. But
Sorry, it just remind me of The Simpsons when Bart is like, just on his head. Sorry,
that's fun.
Undiagnosed ADHD. Go ahead,
She's got the attention span of a goldfish, but we still love her.
How long were you sitting there thinking that? You didn't hear anything, did you?
As long as you said I got the reach on people, I just was like, ding.
So as Beck is a professional boxer and knows what she's talking about, but it is, boxing can be perceived as something that people do to take out aggression and anger, but it's actually learning the discipline. You need to be able to be something else in that ring, but you need to be able to control that other person who's trying to punch you in the face for 15 or 20 or 30 minutes, whatever it is. So just walk us through a little bit of, for people that are sitting at home listening to this, if you are regular Joe, regular Julie, and you've got a regular job and you just feel like a normal person and you think, no, that's not for me. Being a female in that sport, and not just doing it as a professional, but as training, like, what are some of the emotions that you feel like you're able to control? What are some of the emotions and the actual probably internal, external, feelings you feel when you've done, a couple classes, you've maybe had a couple of one-on-ones, you start to do some work at home, maybe the sense of, you're empowering yourself because you feel like you can protect yourself. Just walk us through some of the different mental and physical things that boxing can bring into your life.
Yeah, interestingly, when I am either fighting, sparring, or in the middle of training, when I'm most exhausted, I am the most calm that I could be. And I'm getting the best out of myself when I'm calm. The last thing I'm doing, and it's different for everyone, I don't know what Mick would have answered this question, but if I'm in there training, fighting, or sparring, as I said, I'm best when I'm calm, but I'm also not, I'm not angry. If I'm angry, I'm not going to the boxing gym, because that's when the worst comes out of you, the worst technique. You're going to get hurt, you're going to get angry, and you're going to do things that you wouldn't normally do when you're not in control. And so I think the feeling of going into the boxing gym and being able to harness that, even if you are angry, had an average day or whatever, and you get in there, and I'm able to, quite literally walk in and feel this sense of calm and feel at ease and know that this session I'm going to feel better after it. And there's a lot of strategies that have like taking some time or some breaths or whatever. But ultimately, the sport itself creates this amazing environment for you to feel in control, to feel exhausted, but to be really able to tap into another, like from a conditioning point of view. I don't know about basketball, but footy, you go to a point where you're exhausted and you've got teammates that you are going to rely on to then kind of pick you up and help you out and make that extra run or whatever, and you can rely on them. In boxing, you don't have that. You've got no one else that you can ask to kind of sub in quickly. And there's lots of different facets of footy and boxing. There's quarter time breaks and things like that. But in boxing, you've got the 1 minute break, but it feels like 10 seconds. And by the time you finish, the bell rings and you make your way to the corner and then you talk or you have a breath, talk for a minute, you're probably there for like 45 seconds and then you got to get up and get ready. But I think the thing that I have seen in real time at my gym at Team Ellis and my coach Ty, my coach Nige are the most wonderful, caring men that I probably have met, and they always make me feel really safe in that environment, when the environment from the outset is I'm getting punched in the face by someone else over on the other side of the ring if I'm doing sparring. But I come back to the corner and they'll either give me advice on what I need to do better, or they'll reinforce that I'm doing something right. And I don't know if I smile that much in any other time, but I'm literally always smiling when I'm at boxing, whether I'm getting punched in the face. And if my training partner who I'm sparring with does a good punch, I will actually say, nice, like, that's good, which seems crazy. Like, when I reflect on it, it seems like such a bizarre concept that her and I train with boys as well, so him and I have walked in there today to punch each other on purpose, and we're thankful for it. And I'm so glad we organised this, because I'm so much better for it now. Like, what a bizarre thing to consider. But that's the sport, and that's, if you can actually move past the initial, fear of getting hurt, which I think you'll find you get much more hurt in footy, that's for sure, than boxing. But I understand that there is the connotation that there's concussions and things like that, but then there's a lot more, realistically, I'm less at risk of getting concussed doing boxing than I am at footy. Like that,
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother can of worms. A lot of people have a lot of opinions on that. But I think for anyone who's considering trying the sport or giving it a go, or if they're sitting there and they're thinking, I'd love to do one fight one day and that's it, it's all I need. There's a lot of gyms now are offering all these incredible kind of programs, like a 6 or 8 week camp or whatever. And then you get to go and do a fight. And it's all very, very safe. You've got headgear, you've got big gloves and everything. But you get to fulfill that dream of being in a position where you're so far outside your comfort zone, you don't even know who you are for a minute, because you're just like, I'm a superstar. I'm walking out and lights and cameras and whatever. And it's mums, it's dads that work in office jobs, or it's everyday people. Who did you say before? Joe and Joanne or something?
Yeah.
Julie.
Yeah.
Julie and Joe. They're doing it.
Yeah, it is.
And it's just like, I don't know, I get a lot of inspiration out of seeing people who otherwise wouldn't have step outside their comfort zone, sign up for these things, even just walk into the gym, let alone doing this fight thing. But yeah, I just think it's really impressive when people initially are like, oh, that's not for me, or no, I'm a bit scared to do that, and then do it. It's like, that's it for me. So I get to see that almost every day at the gym, and I'm really happy to be in an environment to see that.
I think that's the most powerful thing is it may not feel like something that everyone wants to do, but there is power in doing something new. And I know that I've seen a magnitude of different people from all walks of life, all ages, all genders, that have gone into a gym, and I've spent, 18 months in basically a camp environment where I was training, multiple times a week, and I was around the fighters and I got to watch them and witness them. Now I came in as this basketballer who had a pretty good name in basketball. And when I walked in that gym, I felt like a child again, because I was like, wow, look at this. I'm learning so many things. This is amazing. But people, when I spoke about that, they were like, oh, well, that's you because you're a basketballer. You got a good name already. And I said, but that's everyone. Everyone in that environment, it's a community and it's a family, and they know they're not going to put you into the ring and say, okay, here's your first day, Julie, you're going to get punched in the face, ding, bell goes off. It's not that at all. It's a very welcoming feeling. It's a very safe environment. As you said, the most safe and calm you feel is when you are in that environment where it's probably most dangerous, but people are there for the right reasons. So if it's something you want to try, I know one of my very good friends, Josh Nesbitt, owns 1-2 Boxing. It's these big water bags, looks like teardrops, and there's a big class. It's a dark room, neons. It's awesome.
There's so many different variations of boxing. You can do it in that kind of environment. You can feel like you want to be part of like a really hyped up kind of time. Or I own part of a 9-round in Ascot Vale, and that's like a circuit style, not so much the dark lights and the neons and stuff. It's more of probably a chilled environment, but still getting that opportunity to go and have that sense of community. And then there's an actual boxing gym like Team Ellis, where there's professional fighters, but there's also classes for kids. There's classes for anyone and everyone. So I think the sport is, if you really want to look into it, you'll find, and you'll be surprised, I think, that it is a pretty accommodating and a really safe space for anyone who wants to give it a go.
And you have a ridiculous record of 8-1, and you have recently just had your first loss. So this is for anyone, whether it's an athlete or you work an office job and you've been successful, for 4 months, and then you've had a month where, your figures weren't up, or you've started your own business and, you've had 3 months of successful figures coming in, you're selling lots of product, and then all of a sudden there's a downfall. That's what we love about the performance circus. Not only is it about, yes, athletes, but also life, everything can correlate. How did you deal with that first loss? Maybe how did you overcome that to get to a great mindset? Because I also feel like I've been watching so many docos lately, and I think obviously you get more seasoned, as we like to call it, in our field. And even though you think you're probably the strongest mentally, it is such a mental thing, sport. It's absolutely insane how if that goes awry, so many other things can in your life. So can you maybe speak about, how you overcame that?
Yeah, I think the thing that's certain in life, and certainly in sport, is you're going to lose at some point, and it's not going to go to plan pretty much all the time. And that's actually why sport is great, because it's not as per the plan. It'd be pretty boring if everyone did everything they set out to do and it goes exactly right, especially if you're versing someone else, because that's just not going to happen. So I think understanding that that's the reality. And obviously I set out to win, clearly. Like I trained to win and everything. But the scenario was on that night, Millie, the girl that I fought, was better. And I can accept that. And I'm proud of myself for being in there. We fought for 8 rounds. It was a good fight. It was a headlining fight for an all-female boxing show, first time ever on TV. All these other factors. Plenty of media went into it beforehand. It created an opportunity for us to showcase women's boxing. I kind of already won before the fight started, to be honest. Then I lost, and obviously that has implications on moving forward and things. But that was my, I think, 9th fight ever, and half of them were early days and also like 6 years earlier. So it's kind of like I haven't been very active. And I think that was my 2nd fight after a significant layoff and all those sorts of things. Also footy in between all this.
Nuts.
So it's been busy. So I could have all the excuses as to why I didn't win, but the biggest reason is because she was just better than me on the night. And I have intention, hopefully, if it all works out, to have a rematch. And I think Millie would be inclined to do that because she's another athlete that understands that this is boxing and it would put on a good show and all this sort of stuff. And that can all get worked out down the track. But that night I lost. According to the commentators and stuff, I wasn't supposed to lose. But realistically, Millie is a Commonwealth Games medalist, has had like probably 10 times more fights and all this sort of stuff. So the numbers are there, but people, for whatever reason, want to pretend like I was the shoe-in to win this fight. I was never the shoe-in to win I'm not the shoe-in to win any fight. No one is, nor footy game. Or basketball. It's just on the night you have to turn up and you have to perform better than the other person. And I didn't. And so I lost. Obviously, I was disappointed. I thought I could have done better. Wish that I could go back in time and start again and listen to my coaches more because and anyone who's a boxing fan has let me know that I didn't do this and I didn't move this way enough and I kept doing this wrong.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that.
And I'm like, appreciate it. Obviously, like that's why. And then I had a big black eye as well because we headbutted through the fight and then she.
That was a good shiner. Have you seen the photo? Yeah, it's sick.
So there was that too, and I'm kind of like, oh, that looks sick. Like I'm a real fighter now. But then it caused this whole thing of it's a bad look for an AFLW player to be doing boxing because she's going to get hurt. But it's like if anyone saw the reality of the injuries from footy, it's like, oh, that's a bad look if I've ever seen one. But it's not because footy, it's a little bit of a pass mark because, we tackle and you land awkwardly and whatever.
Yeah, but shoulders, knees, ankles, hamstrings,
exactly.
calves,
I'll
Achilles,
take a black eye
everything.
over the shoulder injury I've got right now. Like it's just the reality of boxing. You're going to have a bruise at some point. My face wasn't broken. That's the thing that everyone decided. I actually read an article that says that my face was broken and that my career was over. And I was like, the doctor told me that it wasn't broken, so I don't know. Someone knows something else.
This X-ray looks pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. And you feel when your face is broken, I presume. And I felt fine, and I didn't feel like it was hurting too much, so I was pretty confident. But yeah, at the end of the fight, she was over the moon, and now she's got an opportunity to go on a really good trajectory, and I'll have to kind of consolidate and start again, if that makes sense. But I don't hate that. I've enjoyed every fight I've had so far, and I'll enjoy all the ones that I have in the future. So yeah, the loss, I had every intention to lose in that way, but when it actually happens, sometimes it goes differently. But I actually fulfilled the way that I had hoped to lose, which was in a respectful way. I was genuinely happy for her because if I could go back in time, I would go back and change it, and I wanted to win, but didn't. So enjoy it. Like, why not? And that's why I immediately left the ring as well, which I think some people would have misunderstood, but I was like, because up until that, all the media was about me and it was all about, oh, she's, back in the ring, all sort of carry on, but they didn't do heaps about Millie and her career. And I was like, this is the biggest moment of her career from what I can assume. So have it all. Yeah. And I had this eye thing, so everyone was trying to get the photo of the eye and whatever. And so I just kind of scurried out of there, back into the change room, checked with the doctor and headed home, and then got ready for footy training the next week. So it was like, and I think a lot of people would have misunderstood that and thought I was, throwing a tantrum or something. But the reality was I was like, okay, like, congratulations, let's go.
Yeah.
Because you know when, like, the headline, you know what the headline's going to be already. In the middle of the fight, I knew what the headline was going to be, which proves that I probably wasn't in the fight completely at that point. So I've done a lot of reflection. I'm going to watch that fight and my coaches review that fight more than if I won. So in fact, this is better for my career. There's a comeback story coming. All these sorts of things come to mind. So I'm all good. And footy set me up for that because I've lost plenty of times. I've lost grand finals. I've lost... I've had injuries that have kept me out of games that I had to watch on and we lose. So it's like I've had preparation to lose and then for it to happen in that sport, which was like pretty publicised. Yeah. And to be able to do it in the way, I'm pretty proud of myself, which is a bizarre thing to think that I'm proud of the way that I lost, but I think it's important. So, yeah.
And I love the mindset that you have just spoken about. That's empowering just listening to it. And like you said, you reflect on yourself and how you get better. And I just want to speak quickly on, obviously getting through those hard times as well. You've brought up your dad and I know you guys are super close and just obviously Creaky got a phone call from his dad before the potty. He's alive and well.
I didn't call him after. I called him straight away. You good? You dying? Nope. Okay, call you in an hour.
And yeah, same here. I just want to speak quickly on how important is that relationship with your parents. And also, like you said, you started boxing with your dad when you were a young kid and even that's something special as well. But how important is that relationship and how have they helped improve your sporting life?
My parents have been the most supportive and caring people and influences that I could have asked for. I wouldn't change any of it growing up. Any sport I wanted to do, no matter how ridiculous it seemed, they would facilitate it somehow, or at least give me some sort of exposure to realise that it was shit. And they knew I wasn't going to like tennis, but they would go and let me have a go at it and then I'll realise for myself, which I think was important. But I think just the way that they've never missed a game, they've never missed a fight, whether it be in person or watching or finding a way to make sure that they knew that I had them. If nothing else, I had them supporting. So yes, I feel really fortunate. And obviously this is the perfect scenario. I have parents who are able to give me that really nice feeling of support and care. And I know there are people who will be listening who haven't had that. And that it is sad that is the reality for a lot of people. But I think there are influences and people in our lives, whether it be older or teammates or whatever, mentors and things, that we can draw on that support and care from. And yeah, I think I've got it from my parents, but it's not to say that I haven't had incredible influences from other people and other mentors along the way as well. So I don't want to exclusively say that it's got to be parents that can provide this level of support and care, but it can come from a lot of avenues, and I feel we're all quite fortunate to have had the parent support.
All right, so every episode we do the champion quote. We give you 2 quotes, and what we try and get you to do is just break down which one resonates with you the most and then why. So our first quote today is, "Fear is a reaction, courage is a decision," by the good old Winston Churchill. Mm-hmm. The second one is, "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken."
Who's that from?
That's my old mate Oscar.
Last name?
Wild. Wow, boy.
I feel like I can connect with both of them.
You got to pick one. You can't be selfish here, champion.
I am going to pick the second one, be yourself, everyone else is taken, because I think that kind of also is the top one, which is the fear is reaction, courage is a decision. I think if I'm doing this because this is who I am. Who I am is someone who wants to be outside my comfort zone. I choose to do that. And yeah, it's scary. It's scary to move into state. It's scary to get punched in the face and scary to play in a grand final, but I'm doing it because I love it. So I reckon the second one, be yourself, everyone else is taken.
Love
From
it.
Oscar, our boy.
Yeah, our boy.
Thank you so much for just sharing so much today. I feel like we dived into a lot of topics that are real close to, Creaky and I's heart, and the passion project was this podcast. So I just want to say a big shout out for being your true authentic self, sitting here with you and Creaky today. I can just tell you're a real one and you're really open, and I guess also being a female. I love that, you're standing up for gender equality, female empowerment, whether that's online abuse, like we've all copped it I love that you have, stood up for yourself and for others around you in your community. You are such a big leader and an influence. And I think also as well is just not letting people not tell you, hey, you can't do 2 professional sports. Like, you're a dual athlete, you're having fun, and you're living your best life. So Tayla, thank you so much for coming on the show. Hope
Thanks,
you enjoyed
guys.
it.
Yeah,
I loved it. Thank you. It was a great
Badass. I wish I could be a two professional athlete, but I can't.
Never say never.
Nah, not
Windy
yet.
Hill was your town. You were taking over that place for a
Yeah,
minute, and then you
calm
decided,
down.
basketball
down.
needs me. I'm going to go over there.
It's a pipe dream.
But thanks so much to Champion for making this episode possible. I think you just heard a lot about the performance circus here on this episode. But if you enjoyed that, listen in to the same time next week. This is Mitch Creek, Bet Cole. Like, subscribe, see us on Spotify, share it on your socials, and that was a real one.